I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia 6 days before I turned 18. Every single time I happened to start playing hockey again, end up back being in hospitals.
You hear those words and you go, oh, it's an MLM. It's a pyramid scheme.
There are obviously companies and platforms out there that are going to try to take the best of you. If anything, the financial industry it's cowboy land. You can maintain relationships over Zoom or calls, but you build them in person.
A true trust agreement is evenly distributed. Like nobody's siphoning from anybody.
We want to create transparency and understanding as well of why we do certain things and how things work.
Instead of saying, this is happening to me, right? Where you feel the pressures of it, you reframe it to, this is happening for me.
Words are key.
All right, another episode for the Otto Gomes Crypto Show. My name is Otto Gomes. I'm your host, and today we have Tom Barendregt. Thank you so much, Tom, for joining me on this episode. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to talk to you. We have this platform that was brought into our community a few months ago by one of our students who's now the head of passive income. And he absolutely loves it and loves you and loves the work that you're doing with that. And he actually recently went through the process with me just to give me an idea of the back end and how it flows and how it works. But what I know about my community is that they like to know the people behind the platforms and what their spirit is bringing into the platform. So I want to start with you and tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got to this point, like how you got involved with this platform and what your role is in it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, because thank you for having me. And I think it's very good that people openly and transparently see who's behind different platforms that you guys offer through your community. My background is something completely different, to be really honest, than what I'm involved in nowadays. So I am originally from the Netherlands, even though I think I sound quite American, or at least North American. That's because I spent a lot of time in the US and Canada a little bit as well, mostly in the US, because I used to play, hockey or ice hockey, however you want to call it, at a decently high level. I made it all the way up to junior tier 1 in the US, United States Hockey League. And I actually spent, quite several years in the US. I think I moved there when I was about 14 or 15 years old. And spent some several time out there to pursue my dreams of making it to the National Hockey League, the NHL. So that's where I come from. That was my passion at the time. Unfortunately, during my career, which had gone quite well, I also spent some time with my national team from the Netherlands, which is nothing to boast about. In hockey, it's tradition that you hear the national anthem when you play the World Championships after you win a game. Now, I can guarantee you I cannot sing my own national anthem because I never heard very much because we're not that good at hockey. I could sing the Canadian or the US one probably pretty decently. I've heard that one quite a lot, but yeah, the Dutch one hasn't been around for a lot. But yeah, unfortunately, I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia 6 days before I turned 18. I was living in Madison, Wisconsin at the time, playing for the Madison Capitals, which is the United States Hockey League team, which obviously, as you can tell, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, it's a form of blood cancer. It's not an ideal combination, especially if you're trying to be a professional athlete. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but I didn't choose for that to happen to me. That, unfortunately, made me go into lots of treatment, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and stem cell transplants or bone marrow transplants, however you want to describe it as, and to speed up a little bit of that process because it's quite an extensive background. I recovered from that and then was diagnosed again about a year and a half later, then recovered from that again and was diagnosed for a third time about a year later after that. So diagnosis happened around right before I turned 18. And I think this whole journey ended up lasting about 4 years or so with some good times, some bad times. Through that journey, I recovered from that and actually continued to play hockey until after the third time. I was like, I don't know what's going on, but every single time I happened to start playing hockey again after I recover from all of these shenanigans, I somehow end up back being in hospitals with not so pleasant diagnosis. So I decided maybe better to hang up the skates and go try something else, let's put it that way, and hopefully continue that journey. So from that point on, things have been
how old are you?
How old are you health-wise. Now? I'm now 27. Yeah.
Oh, so how old were you when this was happening?
I was 17 for the first diagnosis, 19 with the second one, and I think 20 or 21 during the third one. Yeah, I would say my last treatment was now to clear up the timeline has been 5.5 years ago, like the last actual treatment I've gone. So that's good. So we want to continue that. Been through that 3 times, played hockey during some of that time. But I also realized even as an athlete that, especially after my first diagnosis, I realized that obviously health is definitely not guaranteed. And even if I were to make it into the National Hockey League, how long would that career even last, right? So even when you're staying healthy. So I decided at that point already I wanted to do something with some of the money I'd earned. So I mostly focused on real estate at that time in the US. I bought an apartment. It's a traditional thing that way. I did dabble a little bit in the crypto world already at that point. Honestly, I had no idea really what I was doing there, but I was lucky enough to have some people around who kind of like, hey, you should probably look into this. So this was like 2016, probably around that time. And then throughout my journey, what I mostly was involved in, and that's also how we kind of can make the bridge to what I do now. I got involved in several projects where affiliate marketing was one of the main things, how these companies were selling their products. One of these companies was a very, very big American health and wellness company at the time, which was actually some of the products that I was incorporating as an athlete myself. So that's how I got engaged with them. And because they were launching in Europe at the time and I had quite an extensive network there, I got engaged with them and I became one of their top affiliates. Actually became the #1 affiliate worldwide for people under 25. So that allowed me to already create some other income streams next to the real estate and hockey that I was doing at the time. And because I found the affiliate marketing industry so interesting, I happened to be on the field advisory board for several companies, specifically that one in the US, where I would help this particular company, and I did with other companies as well, advise them how they needed to incorporate affiliate marketing into their business. Because in this day and age, almost every single company around the world has some kind of affiliate or referral model. And I continued doing that over the last few years. And as of last year, I was asked by a personal friend of mine, who happens to be the owner of the platform, if I could come in and have a look alongside with some other experts on how they could grow their company even faster and get more people on board, which affiliate marketing is very strong. And we've proven that it works already over the last 10, 15 years. It's been around. Well, it's been around for way longer if you think about it too. Yeah. Basically, you have a good experience, you share with other people. But especially in this modern day and age, it's been really heavily incorporated. And now in the latest, I would say 5 years, heavily into the financial system even. Up to a point that I even have seen like quite traditional banks that now have like referral or affiliate fees when you refer someone, which if you would have told me that 10 or 15 years ago, it would have been absolutely crazy. I think one of the biggest examples I always use are these fintech companies like Revolut or Wise or big credit card companies like American Express. They're a major player in the affiliate marketing business, even though no one mentions them, but they've had an affiliate program for super, super long. Me personally, I've made lots of referrals to my Amex Platinum card. And because I do that, I receive air miles, which I can then spend flying and upgrading my flights whenever I go somewhere. Yeah, that's been something that has been heavily being incorporated into the financial world. Now, a part of the financial industry, I did get my financial analyst license that I had to do this last year through CySec, which is the regulator for Europe. So that's what I did over this last year. And now I'm part of the business development team, which there's 3 of us and 1 guy who manages us. And we are responsible for, one, managing affiliates. So obviously business development stands for all the markets that we're developing into. And because we're heavily affiliate driven, that means for me working with a lot of affiliates, traveling to a lot of places. So right now I am in the United Arab Emirates, but I will be flying to Asia on Tuesday for 3 weeks. And then I'm visiting people in Kuala Lumpur. I'll be in Singapore, Indonesia, South Korea, a bunch of other places where we have affiliates that are promoting everything that we're doing.
Yeah,
so
I was
my
going
job,
to say
having a look at that.
Yeah. I was going to say with referral systems, the best way is just like talk to people. So like actually physically being and connecting and having the conversations.
It's all in person. You can maintain relationships over Zoom or calls, but you build them in person. Yeah. I mean, that's just the basic. That's something that I've learned over now at this point, a decade of experience I have in the affiliate marketing industry, because I started around when I was like about 17 years old.
You're an expert.
Yeah, so you could say that for sure at this point. That's mostly my role, traveling around and managing the affiliate part and having developed and helped develop the affiliate system on how it plays out. But obviously, I'm very heavily involved in everything that goes into the platform. I would say most of the days in the office, and I've never been so committed that I actually spend a lot of time in offices. I always have said, no, I don't want to be in the office, 9 to 5, that type of stuff. I can't say I'm going in there 9 to 5. I don't show up before 10:30. I leave before 4 because I hate driving in traffic, and traffic here in Dubai can be quite extensive sometimes. But yeah, and obviously I'm very well connected to both the owners, and we have quite a huge operation running now. I would say worldwide, people that are involved in the platform that have some kind of corporate position, whether it's customer service to all the way up to CEO, it's, I would say, 200 or 300 people at this point. So it's yeah.
How long is the platform? So when did it start, the platform?
It's now been about, I would say, 2.5 years since it was
so it's very new.
Founded. Yeah, it's quite new. Yeah. But both the owners prior have had a lot of experience within the industry and have been part of other programs. But yeah, this platform itself has been, I think it's 2.5 years. About that number. Yeah.
One of the things we talk about in our academy is around abundance, right? The energy of exchange and what that really means. And I've narrowed it down to two things, where number one is knowing your own self-worth and value. Because I think when we're creating relationships and we're connecting with people, having your own value system or knowing who you are or having the self-worth internalized is so important. Why? Because of number two, which is the ability to reflect back to someone their value. And I think that's the quickest way to create trust, which then in turn, you start to attract more of the medium of exchange, the currency that we are all dealing with. So yeah, affiliate marketing, I know a lot of people out there, you think you hear those words and you go, oh, it's an MLM, it's a pyramid scheme. And it's like this quick jump to that, because I think that there's low hanging fruit with that structure. And I remember in my early days as an accountant, a lot of people coming to me for those kind of structures. This was like 15 years ago, probably maybe even 20 years ago now. So I can see why there's this, is there a product? Because that was always a question. If there's no product, that's a pyramid scheme.
Correct.
But things have changed. Things have shifted where a lot of companies are doing that. I have, like you said, there's a lot of companies that I use for health stuff. And all of them that I use, they're like smaller businesses. They use referral systems because they work, because it's word of mouth. So with that, I guess that was the intention for Tag Markets, was to, instead of spending money on marketing and putting your name on a mainstream narrative media company, you give it back to the people.
It's a very easy and explainable model. And it's very easy also to figure out whether something is a pyramid scheme or if there's an actual product that is involved. You can do this with any company, because I've incorporated affiliate systems in several companies. And what I tend to see is that they tend to save about twice as much money, and their actual return on it goes up twice as much. So if you take, for example, some of these companies that I guided through this process, they were spending, percentage-wise, probably about 50% of their revenue went straight back into marketing, which could be doing marketing for, I don't know, Facebook ads, YouTube ads, Instagram, whatever it may be, or Meta, as we call it nowadays, sponsoring athletes, I don't know, Ronaldo, whatever, because a lot of the main big affiliate programs that were started early on were mostly in the health and wellness space. So they were spending a lot of money there and opening boutiques in person and blah, blah, yada, yada. And when we switched them to like, hey, let's go fully affiliate driven, it's two things that makes the most sense when going affiliate driven. So one thing that you cannot always manage, depending on what kind of advertisements you would do, but it's hard to track exactly how much conversion you have with all the types of different marketing that you have. Some you can track it, some you cannot. You don't know. With affiliate marketing, if I am an affiliate of yours, Otto, you can exactly see how much referrals I've made. It's very easy to tell. There's a lot of systems that can track that. But most importantly, you don't need to spend any money on me before I make a referral. There's no upfront cost. Yes, if you want to build a affiliate program, you want to have a fancy back office, you're going to spend some money on that. But other than that, there is no marketing budget that you need to spend before you actually already have made a return. If I have an affiliate that brought in a client with a certain amount of money and he's trading from that and we're making profits from that, and based on those profits, we can pay this affiliate, It didn't cost me any money up front. So
Yeah.
those are two major reasons why a lot of companies, and now even nowadays in the financial industry, which again, 10, 15 years ago, no go, because the stigma you were talking about was especially coming from those type of companies. Yeah, we would never do that. And now they're all in there, right? With their own
Yeah.
version of things. But it all comes down to the same thing. And what do you want to call the MLM or network marketing? Or I've heard so many, I know American Express calls it relational marketing, whatever that is, right? It's hilarious, but there's so many companies coming up with their own versions or words of it. It's the same thing. And obviously you always need to be aware of how things work because there are obviously companies and platforms out there that are going to try to take the best of you. But it's once you understand how things work, it's quite easy to see where the money is coming from and whether it's coming from recruitment
Yeah.
or actual services or products being delivered.
When it's done correctly, you actually do the structure correctly, there's more value, in my opinion, in somebody's experience and them sharing about their experience using the product rather than advertising, right? Because in the advertising, it's fine tuned. They make sure that it's pretty and it has the red dress that's going to attract you and shiny, bright new thing. Where in a referral system, in an affiliate marketing system, you have experience and you can talk to the individuals that referred you. Now, here's my question, because I have a lot of affiliate stuff that I share with my community, and I try to do my due diligence and have an experience myself before I do share that information. There are people out there that will sign up for these things, not really experience it, not really try doing it themselves, and then just start sharing it because they want the benefits of the affiliate. And then that's how they make their business around that. So is there any sort of deterrent for that? Or is it really just like you have to rely on the people sharing their experience?
I mean, with us, it's quite simple. People that come in, I would say probably 95% are not affiliates. That everybody has an affiliate back office. They want to, because automatically everyone registers now with the new iTech back office immediately has a partner area. And through that, they are able to do that. People are able to refer people without any cost. So we kind of try to keep the barrier very low because with a lot of affiliate programs, you're going to have to, I don't know, pay this amount of fees this month or have a certain active volume. We require people to use the service themselves. So they need to have at least $250 in trading in CopyX and any of the strategies. But that's the bare minimum. As long as you have that, then you can start sharing. Obviously, people are not obligated to do that. We want to make the barrier very low and easy to enter. And that's why we also, for people that just want to have a feeling or get a taste for the product, because in the end, yes, it's all about using the product. And if you like it and you enjoy it, or the service actually, because I don't know if we can call it a product because you technically don't pay for it, right? You use it. And so technically it's a service if you look at it that way. Then when people have good results, they'll want to share it. And that's why we have made, I think the deposit, if you want to just try it, it's $10. There's very
that's what I was going to ask you. So
yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you because you said 250. So is the barrier to entry to become an affiliate is 250, but if you just want to use the platform, the minimum is $10.
Correct. Yep. Correct. Because what we wanted to overcome is that obviously with affiliate programs, always going to be people who are going to misuse positions and structures in affiliate marketing. So we needed to make some requirements for affiliates. Otherwise, people would create like 20 accounts in a row and position them so they get all the commission. So you have to, you're never going to be able to stop that.
Yeah. There's always somebody trying to game a system, right? No matter how hard you try to make the parameters. But that's a pretty good deterrent. I think that's really cool that I didn't know this detail. So if somebody wants to just sign up to the platform, it's free, right? You can actually just sign up and get into the platform for free. And then you got to try it. Yeah. You can either spend the $250 and start the affiliate process, or let's try it first for a cheaper amount and get some experience in.
Exactly. But there's no cost, as in you don't pay to join the platform. I mean, you don't join or you don't pay for any of the services to get them engaged. We even have a whole academy and everything people can use for free. You can literally sign up, don't pay anything, use the full academy if you want, and that'll be my guest. If you want to use CopyX, probably get into it here in a second. Yeah, you need to put money into the strategy in order to make some money, which the minimum requirement is $10. If you want to be able to make money from referring people, then we require you to at least have $250 in one of the strategies. But there's no monthly fees or joint fees or deposit fees or withdrawal fees. We don't do any of that.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, let's go to the platform a little bit. So what is this platform? Because I've been sharing it here and there, and I have my idea of what I think it really is supposed to be. But what's like your elevator pitch when you're talking to people about this platform?
The official term for what it would be is an FX brokerage. That is literally what it is. And for people who don't understand what a brokerage is, you can just compare it to buying a house. Okay. So if you want to buy a house, typically you're going to need a realtor, which is the broker standing between you and getting a house. A broker in financial terms is the platform, industry, company, whatever you want to call this, between you and financial markets. When you click on a button and you are opening a position in a market, there needs to be a broker facilitating the fact that you can do that, which is backed again by banks who finance a lot of stuff in the background. They're called liquidity providers in the brokerage industry. Mm-hmm. So we are not a fund or a family office, which those are companies that will manage capital for you. We do not do that. Okay. We only facilitate. That's our job. We facilitate the fact that Otto can join us. And if he wants to open up a trade on gold versus the dollar or the euro versus the US dollar or anything for that matter on NASDAQ, because as an FX brokerage, we focus on FX, which is Forex, which is, if you want to really simply explain that, if I come to the US and I have 1,000 euros right now and obviously in the US, I need to spend US dollars, right? So when I exchange my 1,000 euros, I will get around, let's say, $1,200 right now. Let's say I don't spend any of that money. I go back to Europe and then I want to switch my $1,200 back to euros. The question is, do I get 1,000 euros back? The answer is maybe. Can be more, can be less, could be the same. Forex is all about the changing of the exchange rates between two pairs in the traditional finance space. That's all that Forex is. And this is, at least in Europe, I don't know the numbers for North America, where a good 85% of banks, their money is being invested into. So it's a mega market. It's humongous how big the FX space is. And that's where we mostly operate in. But again, as a brokerage, we could facilitate anything in any financial markets. Now, our expertise is not crypto. We do have crypto, but the execution for people that are doing things themselves in crypto looks very different on an FX brokerage than it does on a crypto exchange, for example. Now, there will be solutions for that here in the very near future.
I know Eddie was mentioning that.
If you want, or I can show you maybe later on, but we will be launching a crypto exchange, the STI, as we call it. So it will be underneath the same umbrella. Okay. Legally, we do keep them apart from each other because we do see there's a big market for crypto. And as an FX brokerage, we mostly want to focus on the more traditional type of finance. But that's what we do. So people can come in and they can do, I would say, 3 things is typically what I tell people they can do. They can come in and they can decide they know what they're doing and they can deposit money and they can go click on the buttons themselves. Okay, that's option number 1, which for most people probably isn't the way to go unless you have experience, right? Option number 2 is you can decide, okay, I would like to learn and get educated. Okay, you're more than welcome to use our academy or any other stuff that you can find and use your skills and implement that into the brokerage. Because again, we facilitate. We do facilitate if they want, for instance, groups or signal groups, as we call them, where some of the traders that work for us will share what they're doing. So people can learn from that and their analysis and stuff. It's like more like a hybrid model because yes, you're doing it yourself in the end, but you're getting some help. And then third, if you're like, I don't have the time maybe, or I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm not willing to learn how to trade, which is very understandable because it's not the most easy skill in the world to learn. There we have created this whole CopyX brand where you are able to be like, okay, I would like to connect my capital to someone who does know what they're doing, which an easy term for that would be called copy trading. This is a little bit different than other copy trading platforms, but it works in the end the same way. You put capital in, you connect to another trader. If they do well, you do well. If they don't do well, you don't do well either. Important thing to understand is we as a brokerage, we are not the ones touching your money or touching the buttons. We only facilitate.
Right.
Okay. So we don't offer that we trade for you guys. We're only the intermediary between you and the financial markets. And that's the exact job that a broker has. Nothing more, nothing less. But we can connect you to people who know what they're doing. Why? Because at this point, we have 550,000 clients. And obviously, as a brokerage, we facilitate a lot of trading for pretty large institutions and very successful traders. For instance, some of the guys I think you've been following, they're running a family office, for example. So they're managing capital for wealthy Germans in this particular example, but they have to trade that capital somewhere, which they do with us. So we do have the connections, and that's why we're like, okay, obviously, yes, it's the third party that will take over for you. So you need to click on the disclaimer that we're not responsible for any loss in that regard. And our business model really comes in where most brokers are making their money from is basically every single time a trade is being executed, whether you win or lose the trade, you always pay a little bit of commission, what we call in our industry, lot commissions. Okay. And this is how we can obviously guarantee the longevity of things that we're doing. And then there's something called spreads, where we're making some money there as well. Because no matter people are winning or losing, we always make some commission. And this is how every single brokerage exchange operates. That's where they're going to make their money from. That's very important to understand as well where we are making our money from.
Yeah, Eddie said, and I thought it was really interesting the way he described it. He's think of it as like a social media for trading, where you have somebody that's providing the trades. I think on your platform you call it provider and followers, which is so interesting.
Correct.
Oh, it is a social media for trading. So you got the provider side, you have the people that are doing the trades, you have the followers, the ones that are coming in with and trying to follow and copy the trades, and you're like meta platform, right? You're like the facilitator in between, allowing the transactions to happen.
We're the glue of it all. We keep it all together.
Is there another platform out there that's doing something similar, like somebody like a name that I would know?
Yeah, I'm not sure how familiar with the FX space. I would say 90%, maybe that's a lot, but I would say a lot of platforms in the FX space or brokers offer copy trading. Yes. So it's been around for a while. It's been around crypto for a while either as well. The thing where I think we make a difference, this is all I tell people, guys, there's many other brokers bigger than us as well that are facilitating copy trading. The thing is, there's three differences where we make the difference specifically with CopyX, because CopyX is the platform internally within the platform where you can follow these providers, as you call them. Because there were three problems in our eyes with copy trading up until now. First, there usually isn't very much, how do I say that, control on who can become a provider. I'll be the first to say it. I'm no professional trader. Okay. I know very much how brokers operate. I know how the background facilitates and how to do that. But if you tell me go do it yourself, I tried it. No, not for me. Let's put it that way.
Stressful, right? It's like sweating. I don't know.
Very stressful. Very stressful. Very stressful. So I felt like I did not become a better person of doing that. So it's not for me. And so, but imagine I can go to most exchanges, brokers nowadays, and I can just literally become a provider by clicking a few buttons. They have no idea who I am or what I can do, right? So having a little bit more control on who's actually joining and becoming a part of it, that's one. Not the major thing, because people can look at track records and stuff. You can use your brain, right? But still, that's one. Two is actual execution. Now, this has to do with liquidity. If you have 100 followers following one provider, yeah, it's probably all good. When it becomes 1,000 or 10,000, or with some strategies that we have, 50,000, maybe then some issues could occur. Because if you don't have enough volume coming from your liquidity providers, you could cause very high spreads, meaning that when the provider places the trade, this means that another 50,000 people, we need to copy it on the exact same time with the exact same entry and the exact same exit. And we need to calculate what kind of volume they use, because they're all different amounts of capital that they have in there, and they need to use the same risk management as the main account. you can imagine that can be tricky sometimes. And that means that maybe even though you and Eddie are connected to the exact same provider, your entry to the market and exit are a little bit different. Okay.
You can have a little bit of a delay, which can cause major issues. Yeah.
Yeah. And if your liquidity is not high enough, you're actually moving the market. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what you call spreads. There's a difference between entry and exit is larger or smaller with some people, which shouldn't be the case. It can get that bad that some people will have a positive outcome because some people can have a negative because the market can move that fast all of a sudden. So this is quite a major point. The third, and this is the most important one for people to understand, is if you actually want to bring in like the real deal, high quality guys who actually know what they're doing, those guys are quite discreet. Okay. These are not guys that are allowed on social media and whatever. These are the guys that are in the back of hedge funds and running family offices, these type of guys. Okay. Getting these guys on board is already a job. But one thing why a lot of them don't want to do copy trading is for one particular reason. When you are following someone, Otto, you can obviously open your app on your phone and you can see what's happened. Normally, you are going to be able to see under the trading part, when they open up a trade, you can follow it live. Okay. You can see that the trade's open. You can actually see what their target is, their take profit, their TP, what their stop loss is. So you can see all their data. Okay. Now that sounds transparent. I also would argue that it causes people to become very sweaty and nervous because they see their go up, down, everybody's looking, right? So I think for the mental health of people, it's better to not see that. Because in the end, if you're copying someone, you want them to do the job and not you worry about it. But the biggest issue is that there's a lot of people that are buying these softwares where they are putting $10 into one of these strategies. And then because they can live follow exactly what's happening, they're creating all these Telegram groups and courses and wherever, where they're placing these trades, copying them there, which you can automatically do. I've seen the software, and then sell it as if it's your own, and then promote maybe a different platform or broker who maybe is making money from you losing money, because there are systems who are doing that way. It's called debunking. Okay. Yeah, and that happens a lot in this industry. I mean, if anything, the financial industry it's cowboy land. Okay, you're very, very careful.
It's so funny because I teach on the difference between structuring in the public sector versus structuring in the private sector. And what I've learned, I went really deep into private law versus legislative law, statutory law. And I noticed that like all the tactics, and I did a lot of day trading too, but all the tactics when it comes to commerce is based on the art of war. It's like wartime tactics. So now I'm like, oh, interesting. It's wartime capitalism, or we can go to the private sector and do peacetime capitalism. But yeah, if you're going to play the wartime games, it's not easy. It's stressful. It's war.
Yeah, it's war. It's not pretty. And that's where you'll see a lot of strange things happening in this industry. That's why I think it's a phenomenal industry, but getting some education going and knowing who and what you're dealing with is very important, which I've learned here over the last year and a half, 2 years. But to come back to that point, because that's the most important one that people need to understand, with CopyX, we've actually been able to create a system because, again, when you are, or someone else is doing it for you, pressing the button of buy or sell, because obviously when you're trading, you can make money going with the market, so speculating, or if you don't know what you're doing, I call it gambling, okay? But people who know what they're doing, they're speculating that the market's going up or the market's going down. Okay, that's all that you could do. If we get an example between you and me, if you and I are trading gold right now and you speculate the price is going up, let's say in the next 30 minutes, and I speculate it goes down, and we're both opening up a trade, I place a short, as we call it, you place a long, then if you are right, you are taking my money. If I'm right, I'm taking your money. So that's the important thing to understand in trading. There's always a winner and there's a loser. Okay, just as it is. The biggest example I could probably give you, if you watch a great movie, The Big Short, fantastic movie, explains everything about how these guys, during the financial crisis, made a shitload of money on shorting the housing market, which they actually created a share, whatever you call it, for that they could actually short because it wasn't there, and they created it through the banks. They gave it to them, which is absolutely crazy story, but it's important to understand
subprime loans.
Yep, that's the one. It's important to understand that you can win or lose money both ways. Okay. A lot of
Mhm.
people think you can only make money when something goes up. No, it doesn't work that way. Okay. If someone is betting it goes up and you bet it goes down, then you take money from that guy. It's that simple. But when that happens, obviously you're placing a trade, you're placing a buy. A lot of things need to happen in the background because you're talking, you have us who have to manage, okay, the follower, the provider, liquidity provides in the background, MetaTrader 5, we need to execute it, the app. That's already 5 different parties that are involved that we all need to make sure that everything works. So to build a system where people can follow a provider and then have a system where they cannot see the trade when it's live, but you can see it once it's closed and you can see all the data very transparently, was a little bit of an objective. Let's put it that way. Now, luckily, I'm not no IT guy. I barely know how to connect to my MacBook and get my AirPods going. So that's definitely not my party trick. But luckily, we do have some guys that are very good at that. And they were able to create this. So where we can now guarantee these providers that are coming in that they cannot be copied. Okay. Because their trades do not show until they are actually closed and the profit or loss is either already done. Okay. And that's the big difference because now we could approach some of these traders that we personally know, be like, hey guys, we've now developed this. Would you be interested in now becoming a provider? And that has allowed us to bring in some quite high caliber individuals, which I have seen now for a while. You've seen that now for a little bit as well, what they've been able to do. And I think that's what makes CopyX specifically different to regular copy trading, those 3 major keys. But obviously it's technology. And this is something we're going to be white labeling and will be introduced into other brokerages as well. Because that's one of our business models as well, creating new types of technologies like these and then bringing them to other brokerages. But obviously we want to have a time for ourselves where only we have it. So we have it structured properly and we can bring in the guys that we want to bring in. And then if other brokers want to start using it, yeah, then that will happen as well. So we will not be the only ones in the future. As right now we are, because we're the ones that invented it.
That makes total sense. I was wondering, like, why would somebody choose your platform over not only as a follower but as a provider? What's the difference here? And it's clear to me that you want to connect to the good traders, the ones that are highly skilled. And it's like, why would those highly skilled traders do this in the first place if they can get copied immediately when they're doing the trade? But you created a nice buffer there.
Yep. No, it's just a guarantee for them that we could tell them, like, hey, you're not going to be copied. Which to them gives them a lot of confidence. So people ask me why they would choose for us. Yes, it's the CopyX strategies that we have, but I think the biggest party trick, and this is what we started out with since the beginning, is the ability to amplify your capital or trade with more capital than you bring in. And I think this is a very interesting conversation, especially with someone like you, because every single type of asset that you trade has advantages and disadvantages. And some of them may be both at the same time. So if we look at crypto, which I know you are very knowledgeable of, and Forex, okay, these are completely different type of markets with both have their advantages and disadvantages. And again, some of them actually go both ways. Okay. If you look at crypto, which I know a lot of people love, I do personally as well, there's a lot of good things that I have to say about crypto. But one thing that we can say that is positive, but negative at the same time, it's volatile, right? At least more volatile than it is compared to gold, for example. Even though gold is moving a lot, it doesn't move as much as, I don't know, XRP or Solana, whatever it may be, right?
30 to 50% a day volatility in crypto is very normal.
Exactly. But that's also the beauty of it, because that means when people come in with smaller amounts of capital, let's take $1,000. I'm not saying that's small capital, but let's say we have $1,000. I understand that people are like, yeah, it makes sense to buy Solana because technically maybe I can double or triple or quadruple my money. Let's see what happens. Right. But I can also lose a lot of that. When you start going into the Forex market, and obviously this depends whether you're doing spot or day trading or whatever, but just overall, the market movements are not that much. It's very difficult to double your $1,000. It's possible, but it's going to take a while. And unless you're taking a lot of risk, if you're actually trading with good risk management, No, you're not going to double your money anytime soon. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
If you look at really professional, really, really good guys, they're making 2-3% a month, maybe 4, which is a lot in this industry. I know in crypto can get
Sure.
crazy, but they're making that on millions, right?
Right.
So when you're making a couple percent
Because the
on
liquidity's
millions,
there. That's the other thing. In crypto, you got small books, not a lot of liquidity
yep,
to be able to buy and sell into.
liquidity is massive. I mean, we're talking trillions. It's humongous. It's difficult to, because it depends what you're exactly measuring between crypto and Forex. But obviously, Forex is massively bigger than crypto. But again, that has its downsides and upsides. Now, if you look, and maybe this could be interesting for people listening, just to get education on when you look at FX, there is something that some companies offer, which are called funded accounts. Okay. And it's interesting for people to understand, because maybe you have people that are listening that have been involved in funded accounts. Funded accounts were originally invented by companies that are called proprietary firms, or prop firms, as we like to call them. Now, these firms are offering you to trade with more capital than you bring in. So just an example, I pay $500 to this prop firm, and they will now allow me to trade with $50,000. Okay. Now you might be wondering, like, how the hell does that work? I wanted the same thing. So the way it works is these prop firms, they're not actual brokerages or exchanges or have any liquidity providers. It's just a simulation of the market. It's like trading with monopoly money, or demo accounts, basically what you could call it. Okay. Their money making system is about people paying money and getting some education. And then they're going to trade with this demo account, and they need to pass certain challenges. Okay. Examples of these type of companies are FTMO or U-Funded, and people need to pass the challenges, which I don't know the actual numbers, but I would bet a lot of money on the fact that probably 90 or 95% of people do not pass those actual challenges, which means they need to buy a new challenge again, which costs money, and they probably fill that again. That's their way of making money. When people do pass a challenge, then they get to trade in the real markets, which they don't. It's still a simulation. And then if they make money within that simulation, the money doesn't come from liquidity providers paying that out. It comes from their pockets paying you the money. Okay.
Which now, came from the 95% that didn't pass.
Exactly.
Cycles right back around.
Now, one thing I can guarantee you and tell you, that the financial world is a very much a gray area. Okay. What they're doing is legal. They could do it. Is that ethical? This is a different way. It's a different discussion, right? What they're doing is possible, and they're doing quite well. But it's important to understand that you're not trading in real markets. Okay. It's also important to understand, if you're not trading real markets, that if they wanted to change a little bit what the chart looks like at that point, they can, because it's not the real market, right? But the idea behind it, Otto, is very good. Okay. The idea you can trade more capital than you bring in makes sense. Okay. In this version of it, and I think it's interesting just for people to understand, maybe they've heard of this, it doesn't make very much sense to me, because you're also still paying most of the time 30% performance fees. So if you make money, 30% goes to them. It just means they pay you 30% less, right? Because nothing's going to them, because there's no real money being involved. And you cannot lose more than 10% of the so-called capital they are giving you. So we looked at that, or at least the owners looked at this when they get started, because it's something they've had from the beginning. And they were like, that idea is good, but maybe we can do this with actual markets, right? With actual liquidity. And that's how the amplified account was born. Okay. So we call it amplified account. You can call it funded as well, which basically, if you want to call it in crypto terms, is a 12x leverage, you could call it, on your capital. So let's take a very easy example here. If you bring in $1,000, we will allow you to trade with $12,000, and you can do that yourself manually, but you can also be like, I don't want to do that. I want to connect it to one of these providers within CopyX. Now, if we dive into CopyX, which I think most of your community will be interesting to learn about. If you look at that, and we particularly talk about the Sonic Expert Group, which is the guys that you're connected to currently. These guys have a track record where they have done on average around 1.3% a month. Let's say 1%, just for the sake of the calculations, a little bit easier. So around 1% a month on your $1,000 would be $10 a month, which probably isn't too exciting for most people. But if you're allowed to trade with $12,000, which is 12 times more, that allows you to make $120 in a month compared to the 10, and $120 on your $1,000 initial deposit is actually 12%, which that is what makes things, I think, very interesting. That's where a lot of the explosive growth comes from, combining this, what we already had, with, I would say, the new party trick that we now combine together. What is very important to understand when people hear about this and they see this, these traders, when we talk about these Sonic guys, they are only making 1% a month. They're not making 12. Okay, so it's very important to understand it's not 12%, it's 1. You are making 12% on your own capital because we are allowing you to trade with more. What's also important to understand is the risk involved, because obviously when you could basically, it's like you're borrowing money from liquidity providers in the background, because the actual money will be in your account if you deposit 1,000 and you opt in for 12x.
So I was going to ask you, so that the 12x leverage, that value that you get, right, that other $11,000, that's coming from TAG with your partners, with the liquidity providers, which are essentially banks.
LPs, yes, they're coming from LPs
or LPs, yeah.
Gotcha. Liquidity provided, indeed. So but that's real money. That they really are facilitating that money. It's not just a number on a screen; it's really there. Obviously, no, you cannot withdraw it. I've had people ask me, oh, of course they cannot withdraw it. But but it's actually there. And to understand, maybe if people want to know, if you really want to have a deep dive into understanding how that's possible, it could be like, oh, why would banks do that, right? Banks like to lend out money on things they basically know for sure that their money's coming back, right? So how do they make their money here? By loaning out $11,000 to Otto, let's say in this example. It's because when Otto starts trading, and especially following these type of guys that have quite good track records, they make money on spreads, meaning that if Otto's trade was entering the market at $4,000 of price of gold and he got out at 4,005, the actual entry was a little bit earlier and a little bit later out. So it's a little bit more than he actually sees. You guys don't see this, but that's where they're making their revenue back on. Plus, here it goes. What's the risk to them? It's basically zero, because what can you maximum lose if there's a $12,000 account? Okay, $12,000, you can lose maximum of 10% of that account, which is $1,200. Okay, that's $20 or $200 more than your own 1,000. But that $200, if you lose, that actually goes back to us, to TAG. That's the risk we're willing to take. Okay. So these banks are very comfortable loaning us that type of money for these type of accounts, because they're like, oh, it's almost a guaranteed moneymaker at this point. So that does mean that if you go below 10% drawdown, as we call it, so we got $12,000, 10%, $1,200, it means your liquidation price, as we call it, is $10,800. If your account goes below, that means at that point, hey, Otto, thanks for coming, but your $1,000 is gone. The $200 is not some kind of debt you have with us. That's our problem. Okay. So you can never lose more money than you have put in. That's very important to understand, which sometimes can be the case, which is not the case here. And that means at that point that you would have to open up a new account. Okay. Losing 10%, not a new account with a broker. Okay. But just a new trading account, deposit new funds. Now you need to look at the fact, like, what is the reality of you losing 10%? Because it's viable if you're pressing buttons yourself. But as we talked before, the movement in these type of markets, especially gold versus dollar, it's been a little bit more hectic than it used to be, but it's still nowhere close to the swings that we've seen in crypto over the last few months, right?
But leverage in the crypto space is almost like a dirty word. Don't do it if you don't know what you're doing.
Correct. Yeah, it's very dangerous, because as well, I mean, again, you're talking to someone who's operating from the broker's perspective. I mean, I've seen some of these big crypto exchanges that also are here, and they see your positions. They know how to move markets to get people out that are a little bit over leveraged one way or the other way, right? Yeah, that's no secret. It'll never tell you this, but that is what happens. Okay. Now, what's important to understand, okay, when we have this 10%, what is the actual chances of losing that when we talk about CopyX? And we're going to particularly just highlight the guys that you're following. Okay. So these guys have a track record since 2011, because that's how long they've traded. With us, specifically with the amplified account, they've been trading on that around a year and a half. So we have a track record on that as well, which we also have verified by third parties like MyFX Book. There we can see all the stats, because when you're trading, these guys are professionals. They always handle the same risk management with every single trade they do. Okay. They know how to work with these amplified accounts. Now, when we look at the statistics over that whole track record, they've made on average 1.3% a month, every single month. There have been no down months. And the maximum drawdown that we've seen on a brand new account, not at the end of the month, but overall, just in a certain period of time, was 0.86%, which is quite far away still from 10%. Okay.
Yeah, it's got a lot of cushion there.
In order to lose 10, what would need to happen? Because again, that's just something you can calculate. Okay. Now, with their risk management, when hitting a full stop loss, which kind of argue the fact that they never do that, they usually already stop before they actually hit their main stop loss, because we can see in the background what their actual stop loss was, and they usually already get out earlier. But if they were to hit their full stop loss, okay, they would need to hit that 52 times in a row on a brand new account that just started today, in order to liquidate 10% and liquidate the position. Now, as you've probably seen over these last few weeks, or even month now, they've not made, I think, over 8 trades, maybe 9 in a week. Last week, for instance, was 1 trade a day. This week so far, we had 1 today, 3 yesterday, I think, something like that. So on average, they do maybe 1, maybe 2 a day, but that would be a very high week. So 52 trades are not happening overnight. You're not going to be waking up, be like, that's strange. What happened here?
Yeah.
Right? That's not how it works. I mean,
they're very conservative, I've noticed, for sure. They're very cautious of like how they're trading and what they're doing.
They are
very consistent.
Extremely conservative. Yeah. No, that's, in the end, that's what people are looking for. I mean, on their track record, I think with MyFX Book, they have a win rate of, I think, around 81%. Within CopyX, because that was obviously implemented a little bit later, and the track record was already started way before that. I think it's like 90-ish, maybe even more than that. So they've been very, very consistent. Even if you look at the losses they've endured, almost all of them have been actually recovered on the same day again. I think
I've noticed. I've been in since December 22nd, and I've noticed that it's definitely been more on the positive side. And it's funny because what you just said is very true. The little losses they had, they try to make it up on the same day if they can.
Correct. We've had, since they were incorporated into CopyX, which was September, we've had 1 losing day, like 1 actual day where loss, and they were like, we stopped. There have been more losses. I think I could check. I think it's like out of 110 or 115 trades, I think it's about, let's say 13 or 14.
Well, I was going to say, I think it was 102 success trades, and then there was like 12 trades, I think, that they lost.
Yeah.
So huge rate. That's like an 88% or 90%.
Yeah, it's quite ridiculous. In the end, I always, when speaking about this stuff, these guys are professionals. Could there be a week where we maybe are going to lose? Yeah, it's definitely possible. But in the end, these guys have been super, super consistent over time. We've only seen months that are around 1% or above that mark, which is quite astonishing, especially if you combine it with the type of accounts that you're making. Because, like I said, one of the things I didn't speak about that much, but that I'm also involved in sometimes, just as an investor, and because I find it interesting, is real estate. If I would rent out one of my properties here in United Arab Emirates, I make 8% a year, right? Which is good. But here, I'm making 12% a year, but it's on a position that's also 12x. So that's where we can really make the magic happen. So the combination of those two things, I think, make things very accessible. I think that the barrier of entry is so accessible, makes it very appealing to people. I think the fact that there's no fees in order to do anything is very appealing as well, where the traders are getting paid from, and the affiliates, okay? Because obviously there are costs, but they're only there when there's performance. So what do we call them? If you come in now, Otto, and you got your $1,000 and it goes times 12 and 1% has been made, that would be $120, okay? Mm-hmm. Out of that $120, 70% you would keep yourself, 30% are deducted in fees, okay? So I mean, with the math here, if my math's correct, you would keep $84 and the other $36 would be fees. Now, out of the fee, the 30%, 5% is paid to the provider in this particular scenario, because with some providers, there's some other deals here and there, but this particular provider is 5% to the provider. And then 25% actually is distributed into the affiliate plan. So that's how that's distributed. What's important to know with this performance fee, and this is something definitely if you're listening to this, you want to write down or look up, we make use of something called a high watermark. Okay. Now, this is something crucially important, whether you are doing something with us or any other financial provider that's going to, trade for you or copy trades or whatever it may be. Always please ask them if they use a high watermark. If they don't, I highly recommend you to run away. I'll explain to you exactly why. Here with Otto's account, he's got $1,000, goes times 12, 12,000, 1%, $120. Okay, he pays $36 in fees. So now his account is sitting at 12,084. Let's say his account goes down to 12,050. Okay. Now his account is sitting at 12,050. Now the account goes up again and it goes to 12,100. Let's keep the math very easy. When there is no high watermark, the platform would argue that you've made $50 profits because you went from 12,050 to 12,100, which technically is not true because your highest point, your highest watermark, as it's called, is 12,084. If you don't have a high watermark, they'll make you pay fees on that $50. With a high watermark, you will pay fees from 12,084 to 12,100. And then it's 30% of that, and that's now the new high watermark. Okay. What this guarantees you is that they can never eat your actual capital, right? Because this can happen. If they keep moving you like this, you keep going down and down and down. And down. At some point, you're literally paying fees on your own deposit money, which should never be able to happen with a performance fee. It's ridiculous. But this happens a lot in this industry. So high watermarks are absolute key to check on, which means also for the traders and for the affiliate system, if there's no performance, there is no fees. Okay. And there's only performance fees when there is actual new performance, not people going down and then, we're going back up. We go fees again. Right.
This is so important. Well, yeah. It's important to me because one of the big things we try to teach and instill in everyone is so when we're breaking down crypto projects, have 5 different things that I ask them to look at. Each one of those things has 10 to 15 questions. And the whole goal of this vetting system that I created is to determine, is this a siphoning system? Is this a parasitic system that's just trying to take your money? And it's like, there's a lot of questions you got to ask to figure out what the concepts are that are built into it to determine that. Or no, have they really thought about this being more regenerative? We're not trying to siphon from you. We're trying to make it so that everybody benefits from it. So I didn't know what it would be called, but for this specific thing, that's definitely more toroidal based, like where the intention behind the action is good. It's not evil.
Yeah. And this keeps everyone sharp because, yes, as I already said before, as a brokerage, we make money from every single trade because you pay a little commission on every single trade, right? But this is how financial institutions work. But we see no benefit in connecting you to traders who are terrible, because what's that going to do for us? We're going to be losing out money because you're going to blow up your accounts, which we're not happy with. Liquidity providers are not happy. When there's no performance, the traders are not going to get paid. So there's no benefit on doing any of that, right? So I think it's, I would say, a very, especially transparent and fair-based system where people can see everything transparently. Also, as an affiliate, if you refer people, right? Because well, where does the money exactly come from? You can log in to your affiliate back office. You can see who you've referred. You can see exactly to the cent what profit they've made and exactly what your percentages that you'll be making. And if there's no performance, you're not making anything. It's that easy.
I was just telling Eddie this on one of our lives. Whenever I go into any transaction, I'm always asking the question, who am I in this transaction? Because I've been looking at everything as like a trust agreement. There's a beneficiary, there's a grantor, and there's an administrator of the transaction. What you guys have created here is exactly that. It's a trust agreement. You have the providers providing the orders or the trades. the beneficiaries over here trying to benefit from those trades, and you're the facilitator, the administrator in the middle. And a true trust agreement is evenly distributed. Nobody's siphoning from anybody. Everybody is benefiting evenly in some way, in an equitable way. So you've done that. The platform is definitely doing that.
Yeah, that was the whole idea. We want to create transparency and understanding as well of why we do certain things and how things work. In about a month from now, we'll have hundreds and thousands of people over here, and we have offices in many places around the world. You're more than welcome to come in, have a chat, come talk to us. So yeah, we're, I would say for a financial provider, we're quite open and honest about this type of stuff. I mean,
do you know, I have a question. Yeah. So I have a question. I don't know how much you can share or how much you know of him or the people that were the creators of this platform. But what is a little bit about their background? Like, why do they choose to be this way? I think there's a lot of providers out there that, they're hidden behind the veil and like the Wizard of Oz. We don't know who's behind the curtain in some of these banks. But it seems to me like this company is a little bit more transparent, more open, wants to connect, and created a referral system that's based on those connections.
Yeah, you could literally walk into the office here and shake their hands. They're here almost every single day. And I could tell you from a financial standpoint, they don't have to be at this point anymore.
Yeah.
But they're still there and they're working and they're coming up with this type of stuff like CopyX and, launching in a month from now a crypto exchange that's under the same umbrella with the card and blah, blah, blah. So they're doing a lot of stuff. So there's two owners. One guy, he is my age, a few months older, he's 28. His background is a little bit more like me, so more in the affiliate space, but he was introduced to trading at a very young age. I think it was like 16 or 17 at the time. And he was involved in that for a while and got the opportunity to be part of a brokerage at a very young age. I think he was around 21. He ended up selling that brokerage a couple of years after that. Then he couldn't be in the industry for 2 years because he signs a non-compete, or whatever you want to call it. Then he came back in, and he is more, I would say, the talking guy, the shaking hands guy, the guy who is much more around the people. And then you have the complete opposite. His name is Nick, by the way. His name is Jarrett, who is American. Nick's German. And he is a little bit older, a little bit more mature. So I think he's probably, late 30s, maybe early 40s. I don't want to butcher him, but I think he's around that age. He has a financial background. He has zero knowledge of affiliate marketing. He's no idea what's going on there. He just knows that's how we're promoting the services. But he's the guy who has the massive experience with financial providers, the whole liquidity part. And he's much more of a laid back in the background guy. You'll meet him, but he's not as talkative as I would say Nick, for example, is. And yeah, he's been around in the financial space for probably a good 20 years or so. So he's the guy actually making sure that everything's working in the back end, CopyX, talk to the IT guys. So it's a very interesting dynamic because they're completely two different type of persons.
That's usually how it is, man. You got to get the extremes balanced to create something.
They are so different. I mean, Nick is very outgoing and he's all about the community and doing all that type of stuff. And then Jared, he prefers to not even come to the office, just stay at home, do stuff at his own desk and not show his face so much if he doesn't need to. But very, very different dynamic. But I guess that's why it works, right? I mean, you could always, same with marriage or relationships. If you're exactly the same, maybe it works, but I've not seen that work a lot of times. And these guys are, the complete opposite. And they're very hungry. They're very driven. I mean, from a financial standpoint, I can personally tell you that they don't have to do any of this anymore if they didn't want to. But yeah, they're very competitive, very much about achieving and setting up things that just haven't been done before. Just looking at CopyX, the amplified accounts, there's no other platforms that have that type of technology. And that's why obviously they want to buy it from us. They didn't have to do any of that. And yet they're still here and keep on innovating those things, which is quite unique, I would say. So it's been a pleasure being able to work with them and building a really good relationship also outside of work with them.
I'm 39. I just turned 39 in January or like a few weeks or last week. It's been so recent. But I think it's like a generational thing. I think that why would somebody that's in finance try to really help or create a system that's going to help all the parties involved? You kind of answered it. They're young. It's the generations that went through, or at least the older gentlemen, it's a generation that went through a lot of the crises that happened in 2008 with the banking, with the subprime loans and everything that's happening now. We went from, in 2016, I think we're at $16 trillion in national debt in the US, and we're at 38.5 now. That's 10 years later. So we're seeing a lot of the wartime games and tactics and parasitic ways of siphoning. And if I feel that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like those partners are going like, man, we got to change this. We got to do something a little different here so that it's more toroidal.
Yeah, no, these guys, like I said, I mean, and I've now met a lot of people within the financial industry, other also owners from other brokerages and stuff. And the dynamic that they bring together and the vision that they have and the actual execution of doing things. It's not just talking. These guys are doers, okay? Which sometimes can be difficult because they want to move so fast. But I like the mentality that they have. Yeah, no, they just want to move and move forward and do things, which when you see the IT team, like, guys, we need to develop this and this, move forward, do this, we need to get there, which again, when you're innovating, yeah, you're going to have little bugs and things here and there. And we've definitely experienced that. Very open about that. There's sometimes some little things still going on in companies like, that's not correct. IT, please look into that. But again, I think because we are doing those things, that's why we're shaking up a lot of the market, and why a lot of people are coming to us. I mean, we've literally done an 11 or 12x over the last year, client-wise, which obviously is quite substantial, which also means we have a lot of eyes on us, which means that it's this financial industry. A lot of companies also aren't very happy with us, okay? To be very honest, because when you see these type of growing numbers, I think I would have to check all the numbers, but I think we're at least top 3, if not number 1, fastest growing brokerage worldwide as of right now.
Wow. Like in the world?
Because of that. Yes, worldwide. Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. Well, finish your thought. Go ahead.
No, if you look at the numbers that have been over the last year, again, the numbers are, I think we've gone around between 25 and 50,000 members to now we're sitting at 550. That was maybe a few weeks ago, so it could be maybe 600,000. I would have to check the exact numbers, but it's been a lot of growth. And if you want to know the goals for this year, which is not just the platform tag, it's also when we bring in the exchange, because we're going to see that as a full ecosystem, because we want to build something where everything is under the same umbrella, so we have control of all these things. The goal is to reach 50 million by the end of this year.
By the end of this year? Yeah. Oh, those are big goals, man. That's a huge, that's 100x, right? Or no, more than that?
Yeah. It's based off of tag what we have here, combining that, because everything that we've spoken of, and we can dive into this maybe when it goes live on the later stage as well, Otto, when we can all show this, you've experienced it yourself. But all the technologies and abilities we spoke about before, imagine that, but we're going to be able to have that as well in crypto in a few weeks from now, which we know there's a huge demographic for that as well. A huge market will find that interesting. So this whole CopyX thing is going to be there as well. Okay. And also, if people from your community, you personally, Otto, know crypto traders, we can incorporate them as a provider.
I do.
So I'm sure you do.
I was just talking I was talking to Eddie about that. We have a few friends, I have a few friends that I've already mentioned it to, and they're like, "Oh, that's interesting. I want to know more." So
and the idea is that we have our whole ecosystem. So let's say you refer someone, okay? You refer someone now through our technology company, which is called, or fintech company, it's called AI Tech, okay? Which is also where our affiliate portal is. So when you refer people to AI Tech, people register through there, but automatically it will create an account with Tag. It will create an account with Bit.one, which is going to be the crypto exchange, and with VIX, which is incorporated into Bit.one, which is the crypto card. Okay. The idea behind this is people have one referral link, and through that link, they refer people to the whole ecosystem. Obviously, they need to do separate KYCs with the separate platforms because in the end, they're separate entities, but it's one referral link. And the cool thing is when you bring someone in, okay, Otto, you bring me in, then when people want to deposit within Tag, okay, most people do that with crypto. So they have to send euros or dollars to the exchange, buy crypto, send it to Tag. And then if they want to spend it, you'd have to go back to the bank, but then people can have their card, send it to Bit.one, to the card, and you pay with it. From an affiliate standpoint, This is magic. And also from a client standpoint, from a client, everything's within the same ecosystem. From an affiliate, so whatever referral you've referred me maybe a month ago, when Bit.one goes live and Bix go live, I automatically have an account there. And it's not a separate referral structure. It's the same from Tag because it's underneath the AI Tech umbrella, which means if you're bringing people in as an affiliate, you're going to be making a commission off of what they do in the exchange. You're going to be making a commission off what they do within the brokerage. And you're going to be making a commission every single time they use their card to pay for something, every single time. I think,
because I think, what is it, 3% that's going to be charged? So a percentage of that is going to go back to the affiliate?
Yeah, 3%, 60% of the 3% is affiliate.
Oh, wow, that's toroidal. I've been trying to differentiate between wartime capitalism to peacetime capitalism, and I'm calling it toroidalism.
That's a good one. Yeah, I need to write that one down. That's a very good one. Yeah. So yeah, it's only a few weeks away. So it's coming. I'm already using it, so I've already been able to test it out and see everything that's possible there. And when that goes live, the sky already really wasn't the limit, but at that point, it really is not going to be anymore because we have the full ecosystem, which I think is really going to make the experience from people joining very pleasant because you're literally guided through the whole system. I think that makes it very easy and attractable for people as well. And yeah, especially from an affiliate standpoint, which people are really excited about. I mean, literally by doing nothing, the affiliates that are in now that have built their structures, just because we launched Bit.one and their people are now going to use Bit.one, their income is going to go up massively without lifting a finger. Nothing.
Yeah.
So when they start seeing that type of stuff, you have the whole ecosystem together. So I'm excited for that to all be live. So definitely can facilitate a little information and call about that. Let's say when everything's up and running, which will, let's say March, combined with the card and the exchange. But yeah, that's going to be very interesting. So we're excited to have that whole ecosystem up and running.
I mean, I think that's really cool because you guys could have totally just created that exchange, which is a whole separate thing, and had to create a whole different affiliate system. But you made a choice to no, let's put it all together. Why not? Everybody benefits, and you don't have to do anything to make more money.
Yep, there's one central back office for affiliates, and all the different type of commissions, whether it's from Tag, from Bit.one, or from the card, are all located in one, and you can exactly see where it's coming from, who's doing what. Yeah. So that's the idea. Well, that's the idea. It's already happening.
So yeah, it's already happening, right? Yeah. It's just a matter of referring, right? Talking about it and getting the information out there. And yes, we will do something else again. I'm going to talk to Eddie about this. He's helping me with bringing people in on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis to talk about their products and their things. And we do an open Q&A with our community. So if you're listening and you want to ask questions directly to Tom, make sure you join our academy so you can get that access point. Now, I want to kind of, for the last 15 minutes here, I want to kind of shift a little bit to the devil's advocate. I have been attempting here and there to kind of poke holes at it, but I'm getting the real flavor here, or the theme of the intention behind this platform, which is way more toroidal than I expected. I'm used to, I was an accountant for 10 years. I was in the crypto space for the last 12 years now. So I've experienced a lot of different types of systems. And in my experience, most financial systems they figure out ways to siphon, and they figure out ways to extract as much as they can to keep you, sucked into it. But in what I've heard so far up to this point, it's very toroidal. The mindset behind it is something needs to change, and how things have been happening up until this point does not feel good, and something needs to change. So this is great. So a few questions, if we can just kind of go back into a little bit into the logistics. So I come in with $1,000 and let's say I do the 12X leverage. So now I'm making, you said $86, right? Because it's 120 minus the 30%, and we're a third, or 84, right? 84. So I'm making $84. That's the profit on top of the 1,000. So all of a sudden my account has $1,084 after that month. How quick can I immediately let's say it's not a month I waited. Let's say it's a week and there's, I don't know, $8 or $10 in there. And I'm like, I want to take that money out. Can I do that immediately as I get that reward?
So this is a very good one. So the way it works, profits are withdrawable anytime. If you see a trade coming in right now, yeah, okay, you can only withdraw the part 70% of it, right? Because we in the background calculate the performance fee that needs to be paid every single week. And that's good, because if you need to pay a performance fee, that means there was performance, right? If you're not paying performance fees, that's not a good sign, right? So I always tell people, listen, if you see performance fee being paid, even though it hurts, it's a good sign you had a good week, okay? So yes, profits are withdrawable anytime, okay? Anywhere, anytime, no problem. Now, one thing that we do need to address is, because there's basically two rules within the ecosystem. One is that you cannot lose more than 10%. That's one. And two is when you decide to use that amplified position, amplified account, and we got your $1,000 and we amplified times 12, you cannot withdraw your initial deposit for 30 days from the moment you have amplified it and the first trade has taken place.
That makes sense. Okay. I mean, that's now, most traders will give a time like that.
But it's important to understand why that is, okay? Because we already explained that where the money's coming from. And obviously these banks want to make a little bit of money based off of loaning you out that money. Now, legally, and I'm sure they would love to do this, we would love to do this as well. Legally, we are allowed to give you a 30-day period to wait. What we cannot do, and what a lot of platforms will do if they have some type of structure like this, is that they're like, yeah, but you cannot withdraw until it's been in trading for 30 days. Okay? We would love to do that, that we would force you for 30 days to do that, but we cannot. So the way it works, once the first trade has taken place, okay, from that point on, if you're like, I want to quit, you just stop the strategy. Yes, your money is still in the amplified account. Just wait another 29 days and you can take it out. It doesn't need to be in trading for 30 days. As long as when the first trade took place, that's day one. Okay. Now, when we dive a little bit more into this 30-day cycle, because there's many things you can do. You can decide to withdraw your profit, send it to your card here in the future, spend it, go get some coffee. I highly recommend doing that. They say, obviously, don't take screenshots, take profits. You can decide to leave it on the account, because then it trades with more capital, which is a basic form of compounding. We have another version of that. And that also means that your drawdown level is moving away. So let's say you have a month and you're now indeed sitting at a position of 12,084. Okay. Your drawdown level is still sitting at 10% of 12,000, not 10% of 12,084. Right. So your liquidation price is still sitting at $10,800. So some people are like, I want to build up some cushioning. So they let their ground grow to, let's say, $12,500. So $500 in profit, whatever. The liquidation price is still 10,800. It's based off of your starting capital of the capital that's amplified. Yeah.
So you have a much higher cushion move away now with that compound. Yeah.
Yes, you can. You can. Obviously, when that's the third option you have, you can also decide, or you can do all of these things together, whatever. But the other option is you'd be like, no, let's say there's $100 worth of profit, just to make the math a little bit easier on your account. So your account is 12,100. I can withdraw it. I can leave it, or I can amplify it again. Meaning there's now, I don't know if you've seen that auto, but first you have to withdraw it to the wallet and put it back. Now there's a reinvest button. You can literally click on that.
Oh, I saw that.
And you can say, yeah, you can click on it. It says, okay, profit available, $100. It will take the $100, amplify it times 12, and now your account is not 12,100 anymore. It's 13,200. What you do need to understand is two things. The 10% now has moved to 10% of 13,200. Okay, because now everything is amplified again. And your 30 days is now reset. Okay, so if you do that and you keep amplifying, your 30 days keeps resetting. Okay, so that's important to understand. So I had some people who, I don't know, I think it was for tax purposes, whatever, wanted to withdraw the capital before the end of the year. So I explained to them clearly, okay, then you need to stop amplifying your capital before the end of November. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to withdraw your capital by the end of December. Okay. So the rules that you need to keep in mind is the 10% rule. And when you amplify, 30 days. That's it. If you can follow that, and in fact, that's the only two rules technically that we have. That's it.
That makes perfect sense because that kind of goes into so I was trying to be the devil's advocate. So I'm like, let me do some research on tagged markets. And most people will look at certain places like, I think there's that website, what's it called? Trustpilot. And there's like,
Trustpilot, WikiFX. There's a couple of them.
Yeah, and then even Grok on X, it'll do its own little research and pull the information. So there has been fairly, not a lot. It's just like I've noticed that it's been more negative than positive on tag markets.
Yep.
And what I've heard, this is my perspective, and then you can share yours. What I've heard is that it's fairly new, and it seems like the two owners, the partners, are go-getters. So they're like pushing for action. And with that, things break, things tweak, and especially the amount of growth that this has had in the last year. Just customer support. So that if you don't get to the customer support fast enough, I've seen enough in the crypto space that it happens very quickly because the things are growing so fast in that space. But what would you say is your perspective on everything that with all that?
The growth is the major factor that we've seen. If you look at a Trustpilot a year ago, we were sitting at almost 5 because we had 40,000 clients that we needed to deal with. Let's put it that way. What also is very important people understand in the financial space, there is so much, I don't want to say any bad words, but a lot of yes out there. Let's put it that way. Once you become this large and grow this fast, also go have a look at any of the major crypto exchanges and their reviews. Interesting to read.
Coinbase, this the most well known. It has the worst customer support ever.
Yeah, but also just the reviews that are coming in from there. So what is very important to understand is a couple factors. So the growth we've had this last year was tremendous, which is good, but it's going to bring in issues here and there. As I already said, there's going to be issues in there, especially with these type of guys who will keep pushing and pushing, which is good because that's why we can keep these type of products. Most of our growth has come from Asia. Now, for those of you who are in North America, Asia is a very different market. Specifically, if we look at, let's say China, where a lot of our clients are, India, where we have a majority of our clients. If you go have a read through some of the Trustpilot reviews, which are just hilarious, some of them, if I want to have fun for bed, I go read some of them. There's literally Indians in there being like, oh yeah, I deposited $10. And it became 120. I can't withdraw my $120. Right. And then there's people who get a free, because there's a lot of advertisements and ways to get people in. So we give people a free demo account of $1,200 to practice with. And then people are surprised that they cannot withdraw the $1,200. Yeah, it's a demo account. So when you decide to start really heavily going into these type of markets, you're going to be doomed because it's impossible to serve the caliber of people that you're bringing in there, which was an active decision that we made months ago already. Okay, let's actively go build Asia. But we knew we had to go say goodbye to any of the good reviews that we've had before. So that's a major factor. Then when this type of growth comes in, like I said, there's other companies that are not so happy with us. Okay, they can be from the same industry, specifically other brokerages that decide to be like, Because it's funny, if you go read the Trustpilot, there's so many reviews in there that only have one review in their life. Okay, these are usually companies that are paying certain other companies to make all these reviews and put them on the Trustpilot. If there's only one review, you'll usually, this may be a bot or anything like that. When you go read other articles, you really need to take a lot of stuff with a grain of salt because you need to also understand also Grok or ChatGPT, where they are getting their information from. They don't check their sources. They just scan the internet. Okay. And when there's any type of substantial growth and companies they don't like that, especially with us, because when we spoke about MLM and network marketing before, we are onboarding a lot of MLM companies that aren't very successful, but we are interested in their communities. Now, when you start combining us as a financial institution with these kind of failing, usually crypto type of MLM deals, which we are not facilitating any stuff for them, where we're bringing their communities on to actual sustainable and real products, there's some commotion around that. Oh, Tag was involved with this MLM company. No, we're not involved with them. We have just a lot of their community. We go to their conferences and we present ourselves as a completely separate product provider. But yeah, that we get some eyes on that, which obviously we get some articles from. And a lot of these articles, which are very interesting, they come from websites, which if you just pay them, they'll write a good article for you. Yeah. Because that's their business model. I'll give you one example. If you go to WikiFX, okay, there's actually because WikiFX is one of the major broker reviewers in the world, okay. If you go to any other, smaller reviews, they'll usually use WikiFX as their source. Okay?
A source, yeah.
And it's funny because if you go read it now, and this is the most hilarious thing I've done, and we can do this openly on a call ever if you want to do that, because it's hilarious when I do this with people. Yeah, this website said that WikiFX has given tag markets a score of 1.7 or whatever. Oh, and there is also a very popular one, which is really a good one for me, that the regulator in the Netherlands has put out an article against them. That's one you find as well. I'm like, did you look up the article about the regulator in the Netherlands? I'm like, no. I'm like, go look it up. Yeah, I can't find it. I'm like, yeah, it was up for maybe a couple of days, which was a mistake from their side. But obviously, when something like that goes up, they take a screenshot.
Forever.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. But people don't think like, oh, maybe I should check where the source is coming from. So when people are like, oh, WikiFX gives us a 1.7, like, did you go to WikiFX? Like, no, go there. Well, I think we have like 6.0 there now. Why? I'll be very transparent here. They wanted $100,000. I think we ended up paying like 30 something thousand. We're like, this is the money we have available. All of a sudden, we were regulated. We were one of the fastest growing brokers in the world. If we pay more money, we probably would be an 8 or 9 by now. We don't want to do that. But that is how a lot of these platforms operate. They'll literally blackmail you. Like, hey, send us $100,000 or we're going to write this shit about you. And that's how it goes. And if you make any mistake, whether it's a regulator who puts out a warning against you, I'll explain that to you as well. So to understand regulatory behavior in the FX space, we are regulated, okay? We are regulated by the Financial Service Commission, which is in Mauritius, which is a very strong regulator in the FX space when you look at offshore regulation, because technically it's offshore, but it's a very strong regulator with very strict rules. No, they're not as strict as the US or the European regulation, but we choose to go through a regulator like that because then we can offer you products that other brokers will not be able to do that. In Europe, you cannot get a 12x or 24x at any regulator or any broker. Okay, it's not possible. It's not a thing. If you were to deposit money there, every single transaction above, I think it's $500 now, you would need to explain where your money's coming from. You cannot deposit in crypto or anything like that. We have regulation up to a certain point, which we've talked about this before, Otto. We do need to watch out. Obviously, it's been more strict now, which you'll notice now that sometimes when people deposit through your network, they're going to be under review at some points. Our regulations become a little bit stricter, but for us, the rules are very simple. The way the money comes in, the money needs to flow out. So if you deposit in crypto, it needs to go out in crypto. If you deposit with the bank, fine. It needs to go out to the bank, because if we allow you to deposit the bank and we go out in crypto, that technically could be money laundering. So we want to be in a scenario where we are regulated, where people feel safe, but we're not overly regulated that we cannot give any type of pleasant experience and pleasant product experience. If you look at any type of FX brokers, almost all of them have given up their license in Europe, and they're all operating from either Seychelles, Mauritius, or any of these type of regulatory issuers. And one other slip up we had when we look at the Netherlands one, this is how it works from a regulation perspective. Okay. It's like, I don't know if you know how our drugs policies work in the Netherlands. It's a very weird example, but in the Netherlands, drugs are legal. Okay. We're the only country in the world where that is the case.
Right.
Yeah. But you cannot produce them, but you can sell them. So it's like, oh, magically, there's drugs. Okay. Yeah. It's very strange. Now the laws work the exact same way with regulation in finance. Okay. So we are allowed to take clients from almost anywhere in the world besides a couple of nations. But Netherlands, for example, we're allowed to. What we cannot do is actively advertise to them. We cannot put our website in Dutch, for example. Okay. We cannot have advertisements in the Netherlands for anything like that. Okay. We cannot do that. But if a client from there or person decides on their own to open up an account with us, completely legal. What happened is, in this particular scenario where this article came from, I did a presentation in the Netherlands for a lot of young guys. And these young guys were very excited. And some of these guys were actually door-to-door salesmen. And they went from door to door promoting tag markets as if they were representatives of tag markets. And these guys were 18, 19 years old, very innocent.
Yeah.
One of them made a complaint So we operate almost everything through WhatsApp. We don't do really email. So apparently the regulator sent us an email. Nobody saw that. Nobody responded. And all of a sudden we had an article out there saying that we are a boiler room, which literally is the definition of a call center. So we called them, we explained, and poof, the article was gone. But once the article was there, they all use it. Another interesting example is when you're operating a financial entity, usually Tech Markets is owned by another company, okay, which is called TM Financials Ltd. If you go to our website, you can scroll down all the way to the bottom. You can see our license. You can see the company number. You can actually click on there, and it will automatically send you to the Financial Service Commission, which is the official government regulatory body of Mauritius. Okay, it's not a website you can fake. There you can literally look up our number. You can look up TM Financials, and you can see we're a full licensed dealer. You can find it right there. The thing is, about a year and a half ago, the mother company behind Tech Markets used to be called Pure North Markets. Okay. But for several reasons, because of the growth, we decided to, because with this company, we can have a little bit more other companies underneath it. We decided to change the company behind it. And the license was passed to TM Financials. Now, what all these other websites are now claiming, yeah, they're unregulated. Look, Pure North Markets doesn't have a license anymore. Who owns TM Financials? Yeah, Pure North Markets doesn't own a license anymore. I know. But TM Financials does, and that's the one who owns TM.
Dude, you literally answered all the things I was going to ask you. So you're already used to this, aren't you? You're used to people asking the same questions.
I know, because it's hilarious, because when people send me the things they get from Tech Market, I've already talked to Chad, and Grok, and the responses I get from them, because they're a little bit educated now, are completely different. So if I want to mess around with someone, ChatGPT said this. I'm like, that's weird. Mine said this. You must be drunk. I'm just fooling around with them. But
I've said this a lot, that the AI platforms, they're mirrors to what you put out. So if you go into it already with a certain intention of, or an idea of what it is that you think, it will know, and it will reflect back to reaffirm exactly what you believe.
Exactly. So it's quite dangerous. And again, you need to understand where the sources are coming from. I think they're great tools. Don't get me wrong. But checking the sources is something very important. And that's just going one step further. A license or a regulation, you cannot fake that. You need to go to the governmental body that gives out these regulatory licenses. You can read on their website exactly what that entails, how you need to keep your money segregated, money laundering laws, what we need to oblige to. And you can read it and find it on their website. But obviously most people, which is understandable, they just do ChatGPT, they read this, shit, this is not good. But most people don't dive in and they're like, okay, what are the sources? Okay, these maybe are not as credible. Let's go find out if they actually have a license. Well, you can also email the regulator. Hey, does TM Financial have a license? They'll answer you back. Yes, here's the license. You can see it. They'll send you a copy. When people come over for the event here next month, some of our top affiliates, they come to our office and we do a full breakdown of how our regulatory system works, how we operate. We'll show people the license and everything. We're very open about that, which is important for people to understand how obviously things work. But I think, especially if you have people that come from crypto, I kind of find it a hilarious conversation, because we are so much more regulated than any crypto exchange in the world. It's funny, because if we look at what we had to do with the crypto licensing, I mean, I don't call it a joke, but it's a joke, right? Because it's still so quite unregulated and not known how they need to regulate things. If the owners were like, well, we should have just started with a crypto exchange. This is way easier, this whole FX brokerage thing, right? Now we understand why they do crypto exchanges, right? So I understand.
It's funny because you're right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say with the crypto thing, it's funny because most people, or most of the companies that have come up in the last 10 years, they focused on building, on the products. They focused on all the technology side of it, because that's where it started with developers, right? It wasn't like people that were into licensing or knew all, and even financial stuff. It was more of the techies came out and started to create. And just now, in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, you've had the regulatory bodies come in and go, whoa, we got to regulate this thing. And so now you're starting to see, it's just like the .com bubble. You're going to probably see in the next 5 years, 95 or more % of these companies go away because they haven't followed the rules of the road up until that point.
Yep.
And so then when the bodies come in, they have to go away. So you're doing something that is very rare in the crypto space, is like already starting with regulation in mind and having that ready to go.
We need to, when we were coming from an FX space. So to us, we were prepared to fight the same battle. And then we figured out that even though it is becoming tighter, it's nowhere close to what FX does and what you need to do there. It's so much more complicated. So this was way easier to set up from what I've understood. I don't dive into that too much, but I remember that literally they come up and they're like, holy moly, this was so different than setting up a full-scale FX brokerage, which was interesting to see. But yeah, I understand that people have these questions, but it's very important to just check the sources where things are coming from. That's why we're so open. And when people want to ask questions, yeah, of course. Yeah, I guess repetitive at some point. Like, yeah, I know.
That's why I think this was very, for us to do this conversation and get all of it out, everything in a long form conversation, a lot of trust can get built that way. Because like I said earlier, when there's marketing and advertising and you get bits and pieces here and there, you're not getting this bigger picture. You're getting like a beautified or a carved out response rather than, hey, let's have a conversation and poke holes and actually get the information out. And I think this is also something very important for everybody to become aware of, the importance of discernment. I think it's easy to fall and react to the headlines and to what the AIs are saying now because of they're scraping the internet and just reflecting back to you what you already believe. And this also goes into what I teach in the academy, is that if you're always looking outside of yourself to determine what is valuable, or let's say you're looking at a specific technology or crypto and you're just looking at the price and you're looking at Grok and you're just listening outside of yourself rather than, hey, why don't you go put in $100 into this thing and try it out and go test out the technology, go have some experience and connect your own dots. And then you will decide if it's valuable or not with what everybody else is saying. That's why this is so important, because people will do that.
Yep. Oh, and that's how it goes. And we knew when we had this growth and we started going into the Asian markets, we're going to take some heat and we're willing to take it. It's okay. That's part of the game. It's part of this, I would say, cowboy land that we're in with the financial markets. Because then, as you said, the way we're doing things is not typically how these other players have been doing things. And it's kind of exposing them a little bit that maybe what they've been doing wasn't as nice. Let's call it that way. They don't really appreciate that. And they're very powerful. And they're very powerful, very wealthy companies. So they have a lot of ammo to shoot at us. Let's put it that way.
They have a lot to lose. And in wartime, if you have a lot to lose and all of a sudden there's a new tank in the game, a new little company in the game that is growing exponentially fast. It has a toroidal-based system where it's like a trust agreement that everybody's benefiting. Man, it's a risk for them, and they're going to do everything possible to try to take it down and get rid of it. But hats off to you guys. Like, honestly, I didn't know what to expect in this conversation, but I think by the end now, I feel even more confident in what I've introduced to the community, to my academy.
Well, that's great. Great to hear. That's what we want.
So last question here, and we can wrap it up. I like to do this little bit here with the people that I do my interview with. So you're standing in front of 1 million people. Okay. You're on a stage, you're standing in front of 1 million people. You have 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes, or let's say 90 seconds to leave them something with something. So you got a piece of advice or something that you want them to remember you by. What would you say?
Oh, for me, that's quite easy. I mean, if you look at the journey I've had, which has been a little bit turbulent here and there, right? I think from my sports career, from my professional career, from my, I could say, medical career, I think there's one piece of advice that I learned. And since I started implementing that, life has become a lot smoother. And I learned that specifically when I became sick for the first time. I remember I got the diagnosis, which was obviously not ideal. And a lot of things obviously come to you. Okay, all of a sudden you start thinking about, okay, do I want kids ever in the future? Okay, chemotherapy starting, radiotherapy, the whole works. And there's a couple of things you can do. You can start feeling bad for yourself. You can start asking yourself, well, why me? This and that. And luckily, because of my sports background, I never really felt sorry for myself. I've always been quite competitive. I think that really helped me go through that type of journey. But what I specifically learned was, okay, there's a lot of bad things coming here and it's going to be tough, but there are still things that I can influence. And what I've seen is that people that tend to get into any type of situation, they tend to really put a lot of effort and energy into things they cannot influence. When I look at my medical journey, I couldn't influence whether I was going to die in the end or not, or if the chemo was going to be rough or not. Sounds harsh, but yeah, I had no outcome on that. What I did have an outcome on was, okay, am I going to keep developing myself? Am I going to, read books when I'm spending months in the hospital? Am I going to keep on moving? I'm going to try to keep on working out, even though maybe it's useless. At least for my own peace of mind, I was still moving around. Am I going to feel sorry for myself? There's so many factors, even in that scenario when the world seems to be almost gone, because everything I worked for was gone at that point. I figured out that there's still quite a lot of factors and things that I could influence. And if I can put all my influence into that, right? I even was okay at that point, and I told this with my family and friends around, I can understand for them was a tough time as well, because they cannot do anything because they're not me. I told them, like, guys, I will do everything I can within my power to influence those things that I can influence. And if it then still doesn't work out, I'm okay with that, right? And once I made that decision, going through that whole trajectory, it didn't become easy, but it became a lot more bearable. Let's put it that way. And after that point, I've started doing that with everything. A good other, I would say, example is, I'm originally from the Netherlands. I've spent a lot of time around the world, but I wasn't particularly happy anymore with how Europe has developed over these last few years for many, many reasons. I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to become a politician and, try to change this thing. I was like, probably not. So then, okay, I can complain about the taxes being 49% or whatever they are in the Netherlands. I can complain about mass immigration, which I have certain opinions on. I can complain about the fact that they're basically a socialist country at this point. Yeah, I can complain about that. I can also do something about it, which is leave. That simple. Okay. Because that's the only thing I could influence. I can't influence the other factors. I thought about it. I'm like, no, I'm going to do that. Okay. If I don't agree with it, then let's find a place that I do agree with, or at least for now. Right. And once I really started focusing on things that I can influence, and it can be the small things in life. I mean, yeah, if I get up and the weather is shit, like it was in the Netherlands most of the time, I cannot influence that. Well, I can. I can go to Spain. I can go to Dubai, where I live right now, which 99% of the time is sunny. Okay. So I think there's always things that you can influence. And once you really start focusing on those things and start letting go of the things you cannot influence, which it sounds very easy to say, it's a lot harder to actually do. Okay. Even I sometimes can feel at that. But the more I have done it in all areas of life, that's why I give you a couple examples, the more fun life has become. Okay. And the less stress I've experienced in my life, no matter what kind of stressful situation I was in. Okay, let's analyze the situation. What can I influence? Those things. Okay, let's focus on that and go from there. And when I started doing that, I actually gave me a lot of peace of mind. So that's personally what I would tell people. Yeah.
Dude, that's, I have another way of saying that. And I say that to my community all the time. In all of the situations that we can't control, the pivot or the reframe that you can give yourself is, instead of saying, this is happening to me, right? Where there you feel the pressures of it, you reframe it to, this is happening for me. How is, why is this happening for me? And then you can make the decisions, you can control what you can. And yeah, you'll live a happier life.
I think the vocabulary and the way you word things make a massive difference in how you behave and how you act. I mean, one of my coaches, it's something that stick with me forever for some reason. I mean, I was training a lot when I lived in the States as a hockey player. And obviously, there were some tough times training. And at the end, I'd be like, oh, dude, I'm so tired. He's like, Tom, don't use that word. It's very negative. You're always ready, but you're ready for bed. You're ready for rest is what he called it. And since that point, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for rest. But it's such a more positive way of putting that. And that's one thing that stuck with me forever for some reason. So I never say I'm tired. I'm ready for rest. it's attitude.
I mean, I can
and
talk about. I love words. Words. I think that the more we can, be more present with them and really try to reframe and hear the sound of it or the etymology of it, you can really start to change your life. I believe that the words we use will determine our experience, our reality. Even when we feel quote unquote sick, it's like, oh, here's a reframe. I'm not sick. I'm healing.
yep.
Oh, I'm in the healing process. All these little reframes that can help you experience reality a little different.
Agreed. Yeah,
Good
no, words are
stuff.
key.
Yeah, good stuff, Tom. Thank you so much. If you guys are interested in getting to tag markets, by then I'm going to have not only an onboarding process onto the WAP, so we're going to actually record some videos, Eddie and I, and create this whole flow for onboarding just to facilitate that. But you can already sign up for a free account. I'm going to put the link to that in the captions of this episode, so make sure you check it out and sign up. I mean, with everything you've heard, I feel like this is a very good, if you don't want to call it an investment, it's a good diversification of like your portfolio, something that you can put something into, and you can start with $10, like put a little experience, get a little experience and see how it is. And then once you get the data, right, grow based on the data or scale based on that data. That's something we teach in the academy. Don't scale based on emotion, scale based on data. And that will help you have more long-term benefit. All right, Tom, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you for giving us your energy, your time. And one thing we like to say in the academy, last but not least, always remember, gamify your abundance. Love y'all. Have a great rest of your day.